Good evening, everyone. My name is Marla Burkholder, and I am the Artistic Director for Intercultural Journeys. Thank you so much for joining us for this close-ups conversation. I hope you were able to watch this evening's episode, but if you did not get a chance to see the full performance, following this conversation, the full performance along with this conversation will be uploaded to our website at interculturaljourneys.org, so you can view it there. And also, please share that with anyone that you know who wasn't able to join us this evening. I want to start by acknowledging our incredible production team who made both the physical episode happen itself by doing incredible film and audio work this summer. Stephanie Malson, Danielle Lewis, and Nia Benjamin have done really kind of astonishing work bringing the work of Intercultural Journeys into this online environment in a really beautiful way. Joining me for this conversation this evening, you saw on your screen earlier our Executive Director, Carly Rappaport-Stein. And of course, we are here because of the brilliant Pallabi Chakravorty. And I know that you have questions that you would like to ask of Pallabi, so please feel free to type those into the chat, and we will be glad to have her answer those. So I'm going to start actually, Pallabi, by asking a few questions that folks typed in a little bit earlier. So let's start with. So this is a question that says, please talk about your experience with teaching Kathak in this is in quotes, inorganic environment, meaning in the US or outside of India. So talk about that experience. And also, how do teachers today engage more effectively around Kathak's history?
Okay, great questions. First of all, I would like to thank Intercultural Journeys for having me on this close-up episode. And it's just been absolutely a wonderful experience working with you all. It has been a close-up experience, right? It has been an intimate experience. So thank you so much. And going back to the questions, teaching Kathak outside of India, and also I do workshops in India when I'm there, but teaching Kathak has been what keeps me alive, I think, especially with everything that's going on. It is a very vital aspect of what I do. When I actually became an academic, I'm an anthropologist by training. So I thought that I will just say goodbye to dancing because I'm now going to be doing research and write and do a typical academic career. And obviously in grad school itself, I was dancing, although, being in a strictly academic space, I couldn't just leave dance. And I should have realized that it's really deeply ingrained in me, but still I was really not thinking concretely about it. But I've had students like Naina Green, who herself has a institution now, organization now in Pittsburgh called the Courtyard Dancers. She was learning from me from a very early age, right? I was a grad student, she was there. And then there were some other people there who kind of were there, were performing. So I was teaching some of these students, but I was also exploring at the same time. So the relationship was not the typical teacher-student, the guru-shishya relationship that are they're generally in a traditional setup, because I was also exploring and finding things out for myself, how to teach Kathak to communities. And I also teach at Swarthmore College. And I was also, the fact is that I got a job. The reality of all of this is that I also got a job in a music and dance department. Who would have thought that? I thought that I was going to get a job in an anthropology department. So all of this kind of converged that I had to dance. I was in a music and dance department, and I was teaching Kathak also to students, who are not necessarily Indians or of Indian origin. So it was really how to teach people who are not from part of the culture is what I had to learn myself. So that was these explorations of how to teach something from outside, and also to experiment with different themes. And both of those things kind of converge. So that's the first question. The Kathak history, as you see that it's a very complex history. Um, Somehow in my choreography, I kept going back to that history, and I've kind of tried to explore that history in different ways. It's not that, I did a piece called "The Mahatma is Fasting." Perhaps that's also relevant today, and it was for the Philadelphia Museum for Art. PMA had invited me to do something for Gandhi's birthday. And there, this was a particular piece that looked at the Gujarat riots in India, and then kind of took Gandhi bhajans and the kind of songs Gandhi, liked, like the particular devotional songs, and it created a piece which was questioning and at the same time, speaking about violence and peace. So that was another way to kind of go back to the theme. I've done pieces. Another piece is called Replace Rituals. Again, it looks at Holi, which is a festival of color, but then I kind of also spoke about intergenerational conflict through that, like how these kinds of rituals of whatever it may be, when it's in a different context, how we negotiate some of these things. And all of this, somehow I think that even the Holi was just one a theme which is very much present. It's a Radha Krishna theme. There are many songs of Radha Krishna, these Hindu deities, and there are many traditional songs that one can use. So again, using the tradition, but really kind of going in a different direction to talk about things that maybe are more relevant. So the Kathak history, because there's not, one history, it is multiple trajectories of the Kathak form. One could explore it in so many different ways. And then Find Metia Buruj, you saw excerpts of that, kind of goes back to, again, Kathak history and the emperor, Wajid Ali Shah, who was the last Nawab of Awadh. This is the place, in Lucknow, in northern India, where it grew. Kathak is basically supposed to be, he's supposed to be the one of the most important patron of Kathak dance. And he was exiled to this place called Metia Buruj in Kolkata. So how do we kind of interweave these kinds of stories of the history is what we've been exploring through my choreographies.
That's really wonderful to hear that description, Pallabi. Thank you. And actually, you perfectly segued into the next question from Naina, which is about the stories that you're looking to tell through your art in this new world that we have found ourselves in. And what stories are you trying to tell? Are you looking to tell in this new world?
So I think that, the world is constantly changing, and it's showing us different faces. And we are particularly going through a very difficult historical period right now, both in this country, both also in India. And I'm very connected, as you can see, my research, and a lot of things are still connected to India. So I live in both countries, I feel. And so I think that the new stories, if I'm going to sort of think about new stories, I think that it really has to be this connection of the past and the present. As you can see that I'm very interested in the past. And I think that the past and present are interconnected. If we don't get a sense of the past, it's very difficult to understand how to experience the present. But the past, at least in India and in this country, is also, as you can see, it's being contested. Who gets to write the history of the past? So I think that that's what has been driving me to, and also because India's history is so complicated and so much gets reinterpreted in different ways. Right now, also, it's been rewritten, again, in a very monolithic way, as some of us are aware. So in a very Hindu fundamentalist way, and even in this country, so this past and present, I think that's where I am very much situated right now, that how do I keep exploring these interconnections between the past and the present.
Which of course also relates to the next question from Jean. So her question is about the first piece that we saw in your performance this evening, which was Asunder, which is about the piece about partition in India. And her question is about the song in the dance, and I'm really glad she asked, because I'm curious as well. There's both the sarangi playing, but there's vocals. So what is the song that we hear there?
Yeah, great. Thank you for asking that question. So the Asunder piece, also like most of my pieces, use traditional songs. So this particular song is called Thumri, and it's very important for the Kathak genre. And so the song basically is, it's a kind of a devotional song, which is talking about, usually talks about Krishna, right? Krishna is the Hindu deity, and it's about longing and separation, and Thumri comes from like you can hear the kind of sound there, Thumak, Thumri, that's how it came. The way, you wear bells and you walk, and that's the sound of the Thumri. And in the past, the dance and music were interconnected. So Thumri is a song genre and a dance genre, which got kind of separated. Long story, but so that's the genre, which is so important for Kathak, and it was also developed by the courtesans, the tawais. So that's what was so important for me to kind of start Asunder with, because the song is about wanting to go, like you hear the music, the Krishna plays the flute, so the Radha, or the deity, the Hindu deity Radha, but is also Krishna's lover, is hearing, I'm imagining that she's hearing the flute, but she's wanting to go out and meet him, but she can't. So this love and separation and longing is what is woven through all the Thumri songs. And I thought that, it is in Asunder, if you see it starts with actually this particular song is about this, because it is about Asunder, that reunion, that my soul is, yearning for something that cannot be together. Because it's partitioned, right? Yeah. So it's about this kind of separation and union, which is what I used the song for, to mean something completely different.
I think that's wonderful. So to sort of speaking about the soul of a people and a land being torn apart and longing for each other.
Yeah,
it's very powerful.
And it feels so poignant today, especially, I mean, when we are looking both, when we talk about what's going on with COVID, of course, and what's going on politically, we really feel that separation and that longing. So I think, I know that you created it earlier, but it has an extra meaning, I think, for me tonight, certainly.
Yeah.
But I'm going to move us to our next question, which is from Emily, who says, I love that your work uses the classical forms to carry out critical inquiry rather than deconstructing them or abandoning them. And she asks if you can talk about your decision to do that work from inside or within the form.
Wow, that's a great question, actually. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things, as you can see, is that my work really challenges, what is given to us to some extent, also in terms of history, in terms of how to, what tradition is, because I'm also kind of questioning tradition at the same time embracing it. And so my question is then, why can we look at what tradition really is, right? So then once we start to explore that critically, you see that the tradition itself has the space for all of these things, because the Thumri genre or the ghazal genre, like the Kathak dance itself, is an amalgamation of so many different things. And I've talked about the Hindu-Muslim, elements in Kathak. We in Kotia dancers, we say that we are so happy that we practice pluralism every day when we are doing dha, dhind, hinda, because it is not something that is singular. It is multiple. And so I think that's what was very interesting for me, to see that, that how can I go back to the tradition to understand what is there and what gets interpreted in what way and for what political purposes. At the same time, I think that if I say I'm not a traditional dancer, if I'm a contemporary dancer, or I think that's then it's very easy for people to kind of put me in a box and say, I don't want to deal with her because she is no longer a Kathak dancer. She's no longer a traditional dancer, because I am calling myself a Kathak dancer. So then we have to look at the Kathak form itself and see what is in the form, what is in the history. And also I think that this whole, abandoning the form, we can't really abandon anything, because the form is deeply embedded, it's sedimented in my body, the way it is layered on my body. If I wanted to abandon it, I wouldn't have been able to. Even if I tried to, I can't. Like, I can't leave if I say I'm not going to speak Bengali anymore, I'm going to speak some other language, I can't. I mean, it is deeply sedimented. So I will always have that in me. I have embodied it. I can consciously not try to do something and try to change it in a certain way, but I don't think I can, uh, significantly change it in any way. I'm stuck with it.
I think that speaks to the cultural experience of many of us, I think. And I think that's incredibly powerful that you've chosen to stick it out, to engage with the art and make it your own and wrestle with the issues within it. We have so many good questions here. I don't think we're even going to get to all of them. We have probably time for a couple more. From Pratna, having heard of the Bangladeshi British dancer Akram Khan, who draws on Kathak in his contemporary dance, she wants to ask about the legacy of Kathak in Bangladesh and Pakistan.
That's also a really nice question. So as you know that, I mean, I don't know how much you know, but, dance in Pakistan was banned by Zia-ul Haq at one time. So the Kathak, even though I'm very critical of how, Kathak was patronized in India, post-independence India, how it was institutionalized, sometimes I'm very critical of that history. But the fact is that the state did patronize the dance. You can't have art, as you guys really know this much better than me, you can't have art without some kind of patronage or some kind of funding, or somebody has to be there for the arts. It can't exist on its own. So the state, so after India became independence, when the patronage kind of moved from the royalty or the zamindars, the landlords who were patronizing the arts, it moved to the Indian state, and the Indian state created various different institutions and patronized. The same thing didn't happen in Pakistan. And also Pakistan didn't allow because it became an Islamic state, it didn't allow music and dance to flourish in this way. So some of it went kind of, it's not that people were not dancing. There is a very famous Pakistani dancer called Nahid Siddiqui. She's based in UK, also like Akram. So it was happening there. And in Bangladesh also there is Kathak, but not as popular or as much as you see in India because of the lack of patronage and because of its interpretation by Islam.
That's so interesting. And I think because we have so many amazing questions, Pallabi, if you're willing to stay on for a couple extra minutes, we may try and get you to answer all of them. This is so fantastic.
Sure.
Thank you all
I'm willing to. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all for chiming in with all of these questions. So the one I'm going to read to you now is from Cynthia. Oh, and more questions coming in. This one's from Cynthia. How do you negotiate between honoring the contributions of subaltern voices to Kathak and your own relative privilege? And what does this mean not only discursively, but in the body? These are such great questions. I'm really enjoying all of the questions and all of your answers, Pallabi. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And I think I know Cynthia, who's asking the question also. So that's a great question. Thanks for that question. So the subaltern voice or the tawaif voice, the voice of the baiji or the tawaif, when I created Silencing the Notch, actually, I created a conversation with this person, my imaginary person. And I used a poem by a Bengali poet called Jibanananda Das. And it's a poet about, it's a poem, it goes like this: Alo andhokare jai, mathar bhetor shopno noy, kono ek bodh kaj kore, which kind of, I'm going to do a horrible translation here. But it means that I am in this kind of twilight zone of light and darkness. And there is nothing in my head other than like there is this consciousness that keeps, it's flowering of something that I feel like a sensation. It's a sensation. It's not a thought, but it's a sensation. So, I kind of use that poem to come to terms with understanding the history, because I didn't know. Right? I had seen films and all of that, but really consciously to understand, okay, this is the history of the Kathak dance. So it was that kind of questioning and tussle almost with the self to understand that, and also to kind of realize that, but even though I have obviously my privilege, it is my heritage. I mean, I do claim it to be my heritage. And because of the way, if I look at the history of the way this was part of everyday life also of people, and that it is part of the culture. It was in the pores of the culture, and I inherited that culture. It went into my body, into my pores of my body, without even knowing that it was there, right? Because I learned this in India, because everybody learns it in India. It's part of everybody. All the middle class girls are sent to schools to learn dance, and I learned it like that, everyday life and so forth. And so I just feel that obviously, this history and this acknowledging this history is difficult, and because the tawaifs themselves have been impoverished. I went to speak to them when I was writing my book, and I actually ended up not writing about them because I felt that I did not have the almost the right to represent them in the right way. It would have been better if I could dance it. There was this very difficult, I had a very difficult situation wanting to write about them, yet I couldn't write about them because they also didn't want me to. At least the couple of people I spoke to, they were already in the way that they had some respectability, because these people were stigmatized as prostitutes. They already had some respectability. They were sending their kids to schools and things. And I just didn't know how to deal with all of these complexities and whether I could represent them in a way that would be, respectful or will actually help them in any way. So I didn't. I mean, that's why I was more comfortable dancing it rather than writing about it. Um, and I'm still struggling with it. It's not an easy thing to kind of, knowing the history to do these kinds of dance. But at the same time, I feel that it is in an environment where I grew. And so it is part of my heritage. And I'm dancing it because it was there. It was all there for us to absorb, experience, and express.
Yeah, I think you're actually sort of like touching on many questions that are here. So I'm gonna read one next from Sherry, who's asking about something about your teaching here in the US. So when you are teaching someone from another culture, do you also introduce any particular cultural norms into the room to, I guess as a way of bridging?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say that, when I just want to go back and say that when I'm calling it my heritage, I just want to kind of explain some of this before I go to the next question, is that I am also a cultural outsider in a particular way to the community that I'm talking about. So it's also part of the history, because the courtesans came with Wajid Ali Shah, the Nawab who came from Lucknow to Kolkata, and this is how it was established in Kolkata. So, but I am not, like I said, Islam, because I think Kathak is it's a hybrid form of Hinduism and Islam, but it's not Islam. We say Islamicate culture, which is the cultural aspect of Islam, because I'm not Muslim, right? But culturally, I feel that I'm Muslim because of the long period of research that I've done in the subject, this kind of dance that I do, kind of poetry that I read. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. But going back to, how do I create a particular space? I know there's certain things that people do when they come into the space in India, which is like doing a pranam or kind of salutation, or they touch the guru's feet, like teacher's feet, to show respect. I don't do all of that, but I have created certain salams. Salam is another salutation which comes from the Islamicate tradition. So I do teach students, once they're a little more comfortable with the music, with a meter, the tabla meter and all, I do teach them how to move with rhythm. Otherwise, when they come into the class, like at Swarthmore, the first thing we do is we sit in a circle around the tabla player. So, and then we start to hear the rhythm and clap together and try to, it's almost like, how can we make our heart beat together? Through the beats, we want to connect. We don't talk much, it's just tell your names and things like that. And then we go into the rhythmic world, the non-verbal world of communication, right? So we just clap, say the rhythms, and that's how the thing comes together.
I love hearing that sort of communal heartbeat. That really is going to stick with me for a long time. So I'm glad you said that. Thank you, Pallabi. And I have had so much fun hearing from you tonight and having all these wonderful questions. And I'm going to ask you one more before we sign off for the night, from Sagar, who's asking about where the Kathak art form goes from here. And one of the questions she asks about, do you think more digital, more video? Where are we going?
Yeah, I think that after this, there will be obviously something different in terms of, the screen, that we probably will be seeing, a lot of things on screen. But at the same time, you saw today, this program was on screen, and we are kind of stuck in a situation where we are on screen. But there is something about live performance, right? To be there in flesh and blood, and to experience music and dance, theater, all kinds of performing arts in flesh and blood is a completely different experience. And I do think that the Kathak dance itself, I mean, that's why I said the rhythm, the tabla rhythm, and those kinds of things are so important, the kinesthetic experience of this. I feel that, in the future, we need those things, that we will be, video and all of those things will be there, but we will be there live, stomping our feet together, and experiencing the kinesthetic aspects of Kathak and the singing and the emotive aspect, so that we can touch each other more, connect with each other more, because it is about communication, right? To connect with your audience. And I think that kind of connection, it has something called rasa, Indian aesthetic theory. Like it's the juice that connects us emotionally. It's that particular kind of emotional juice which flows when we are in real time, in real life. So
wonderful. A beautiful note to end on. So with that, I want to say huge thank you to you, Pallabi, for joining us this evening and sharing so much of your heart and your incredible wisdom with us, and teaching us about
thank you.
this
Thank you.
art form and about your art. Thank you to your community, to the courtyard dancers who are represented here, and to friends and family in India who are perhaps not joining us live because it's 6 a.m. But we'll be viewing this at some point. Thank you so much, and to everyone who has joined us this evening for this conversation. It's really wonderful to be here together, even virtually. And if you joined us but have not had a chance to donate, I'm going to harken back to what Pallabi said, that arts do not happen in this country anyways without patronage. So if you enjoyed Close-Ups, please know that this is the last episode for this season, but Intercultural Journeys is already hard at work for the Close-Ups that are to come for next year, and we welcome your support. And you can give at any time at interculturaljourneys.org. Thank you again so much. Please stay safe and well, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Good night.